and welcome to the second part of the special bonus episode of the Story Nerd podcast. My name is Valerie Francis. I am an author and a story editor, and I teach women who are writing in all genres how to craft a book so good that it hooks the reader on page one and never lets them go.
And I'm Melanie Hill, editor, poet, and author of middle grade novel Jet Cooper, and I help writers identify and solve their story problems.
And I am Kathleen Fox, a literary agent at the Rights Factory in Toronto and an editor with Fox Editorial.
Okay, as I suspected, our conversation about AI and creative writing and publishing is definitely 2 episodes, might even be 3. Who knows? So let me scroll down in the notes here to make sure we get to all the topics. Okay, so in the last episode, we were talking about the subjectivity of art and the uniqueness of the writer is going to make something unique in the art, and that agents are not looking for average, because that's what AI does, right? It averages, and it gives you something average. So I think we can all agree that there is no market for average. There's no interest in average. So this brings me to the next topic that I wanted to discuss. Because to be honest, ladies, all of the stuff that we're talking about is all great, but I keep coming back to the why of it all. I can't leave it alone because I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, yes, I know writers use it to create more books more quickly. I understand that. But, I mean, I'm just going to be direct because, hey, that's how I roll. The job of a writer is to write. And yeah, it can be hard. It's hard by design, actually. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Sometimes it's really hard. But that is the job. And it isn't for everyone, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. And I just have to say, for anyone who, I don't think anyone listening to our show is really relying on AI to generate their text for them. I just don't think that's who is interested in Story Nerd. But if there's someone in your writing group, for example, who is extolling the virtues of publishing 10 AI books to Amazon every week, because that's the limit, maybe ask them why they're doing it. Because if writing the book is too hard for them, or moreover, not enjoyable for them, then why are they doing it? Because life is really, really short, and we're only going this way once, unless you're Shirley MacLaine. So why spend it doing something that you don't like, or is no fun, or is too hard? Now, I ask myself this question all the time, and the only thing that I have come up with is that people want to enjoy the quote unquote romance of being an author without actually being an author, right? There's a whole bunch of people who want to get rich quick. And 50 Shades did not help because people looked at that and thought, I can write that. And yeah, you probably can. That was an anomaly, I think. And yeah, there's lots of people uploading 10 books a week to Amazon. And there's lots of people out there with more than 500 titles. And so if you've got that many books, you probably will earn some revenue before your account gets shut down or people catch on to what you're doing. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I did read in the New York Times article that I referenced in the last episode that there had been a thought that it would be maybe romance novels that would be the target for AI-generated fiction. And I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But according to that article, most of the AI titles that are being uploaded to Amazon are actually nonfiction. So that's interesting. Anyway, Melanie, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I keep you've heard me say this on, and now poor Kathleen has to hear me say this every week on when we record our episodes. If the process of writing isn't fun, why do it? That's where I keep getting stuck. Um, am I a Luddite? Do I just have to let this go now, Melanie, because the horse is out of the gate? What?
Think you do have to let it go because I think like what you're thinking is real, and I think because writing is thinking, right? Writing is thinking out loud, and that's really important. I'll I'll tell you a couple of stories about my work outside of writing because I've got a lot of experience when it comes to. I've got a team that actually creates models and builds tools, and I've got some very clever people in there. But I also have other parts of my team that need to write reports. And one of my staff suggested to me that she's going to use generative AI to write the reports that I need her to write and the documents I need her to write. And I said, well, if you do that, you need to tell me how much time it took you because that's about as much time as I'll give to actually reviewing the work that you put in front of me. And she went, what? And I went, no, if you so sounds so harsh, right? So if you, at your experience level, cannot, and I was trying to get a reaction and to get her to think about things. If you can't be bothered to write something for me to review, or if you do that because it's easier for you to do that, I'll be able to tell, and I'm going to spend about as much time on it as you spent creating it. Now, that is very harsh, and I was doing it for a very specific reason. The person that I'm talking about has a fear of writing. It does not come naturally to them, but I need them to be able to develop and actually have that skill. But she's very scared of getting things wrong. And I think this pays into that part of the question, Val, that you were asking about why. And I think that there is a fear of getting things wrong. I think there is a little bit of this is really hard. If there's an easier way to do it, then why don't I do that? So I think that's a combination of different things. But I think for me, when it comes to actually, and the reports that we're writing would be considered nonfiction, right? It's important because what I want, again, people to do is to have that critical thinking ability. And they only generate that when they actually sit down to write and put their thoughts on paper and create something. So it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit last time about critical thinking skills. Writing is an important part of developing critical thinking skills and analytical skills. So there's that part of what is really important for me in terms of writing in a creative way, but in a professional environment, in a technical industry. The other part of my work is I have, like I said, a decision support team, and I have some very, very clever people in that team. And our job there is to sift through massive amounts of data and pick out trends and to pick out things that take people a lot of time to do. So the other day, the team created a tool for someone who was trying to sift through 12 years of data, 12 years of training data with hundreds and hundreds of employees. And they made a tool that saved this person weeks of work, weeks of work. So that is actually helping them do something that's very laborious in a way that allows them and frees up their time to actually go and, once they've done the analysis of the data, can then go and make decisions and go and build training programs themselves. So we do this constantly. The team is actually looking at data sets, creating tools to make that data ingestible, because there is no human that can possibly hold 12 years of data, thousands of lines on a spreadsheet in their head. And so the AI tools help that we build, or that my team builds, is really important. But, and I'll tell you, this is a great story about the person who leads that team. So she has like a PhD in physics. She's one of the smartest people I know. She speaks 5 languages. So she is she is someone who I admire greatly. And her and I were talking one day about um, you know, what do you let it do and let the tools do? And how does she think about generative AI? And she just said, as someone who builds the tools and understands the maths that sits behind it, she said, "Oh, I never let it make decisions. I know, like, it is for me to stay in charge. It is something where I'm the one that's making the decisions. It will provide, I'll look at the data, I'll see what it's saying, but I will always be in control of the decisions and I will not let it make decisions on my behalf." And I think that that's a really interesting way to think about how to view the tools and what they can do for you. And it comes into the writing environment because you can choose, if you do want to, use the tools, how you use them. Now, that's not me advocating to use it for writing, but what I'm saying is that you need to know who you are as a writer, and you need to understand what it is that you're doing. And by that I mean, if you, like you said, Val, if you are in the act of creating and you want to write a book, the essence of what you're doing is writing the book. So you have a choice. You have a choice to use tools or not to use tools. And I think that that's really important. And but again, I come back to that point I raised last time, is the tools are just the tools. You get to choose how and if you use them. And in some instances, they're really good. They, at work, they help us do a lot of really good things and they make things efficient. But it should not ever replace the thinking that I need people to do. And it's the same in fiction. I don't think that the tools should replace the thinking that goes into writing literary texts, even in a fiction environment. So that's just, I deal with this on multiple levels and I have to think about it differently in each context. And that's really important. And I learn a lot from talking to people about these things. So again, lots of different thoughts. It's a big topic and I'm trying really hard to work out my way through all of this as well. But I will never use generative AI in my writing because I actually I love writing. Why would I want to give that over to something else to do? And I think that's really at the crux of what we're talking about. And I think this is something that the 3 of us have in common. This is, why would we hand over something that we enjoy and we love the challenge of, even when it's hard, to make that easier? Because being easy means that you're not learning as well.
It's like the Instagram post that's going around. I want AI to do my housework so I can do my art. I don't want AI to do my art so I can do my housework.
Yeah, yeah.
It's exact. It's that is truth. Kathleen, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I keep looking down over here because I'm making notes so that I don't forget anything. Human Humans should be making decisions, not AI. I think that's a really important point. You know, the gathering of information versus deciding what to do with that information. That's an important line to draw, right? It is everywhere. It's hard to get away from, but the second you let it decide what's good or bad or what's right or wrong, that's where we start getting into trouble. Um, and I like, um, I'm just trying to think of what you said now. It shouldn't replace the thinking aspect. Um, Gathering of information, when we think about, when computers first came along and then the internet first came along, And now we just have access to whatever information we want. It's at the tips of our fingers. It lands on our screen in like a millisecond. And so that's the gathering of information. And that is information that is available to everybody. Um, and I would be interested to look at how people treated that when it first came along, right? Because I remember using encyclopedias, and I used to love using encyclopedias. I would go to my grandparents' house, and they would have the Britannica, like, brown leather, and I would just go and do it for fun, and y nobody has encyclopedias anymore, and that's kinda sad. Oh, good. Yay.
I do, they take
So
up
yeah,
a whole lot of shelf space, but I
they
have
d
a full set of
they do.
encyclopedias.
Excellent. Um, yeah, so I wonder how people thought about the invention of this, information superhighway, and we could get on the internet and find all of this information. Okay, well, we don't need the books anymore, and it's sad. So, but I mean, comparatively speaking, we're at sort of we're still at the beginning of the AI usage. Like, it's just coming into the scene the last few years, and so I think it is very important to decide how you're going to use it, and if you're using it ethically. Like, it should never do the thinking for you. That sounds scary to me. Why would you let a computer make decisions? That's like Skynet kind of stuff, right? Like, it's scary to think about, and I don't want to go in that direction.
That's why the team is called like that team. We thought about what we call them, and they are decision support. Do you know, like that is what they do. They provide information so that the humans stay in charge of the decision making. And, that's the thinking part and the responsibility part. I think that sometimes gets missed in the conversations about um, AI and generative AI and the use of it, and particularly in the publishing world, and I think, Kathleen, you were saying that there's uses of tools and things that people aren't being transparent about. And I think that is a clear sign that they've lost control to a degree of the humanness if that's what they're doing.
I think it's incredibly short-sighted. And Melanie, I just wanna pick up on something that you said at the top of this episode. If the book is not important enough for the writer to spend any time with it, to invest any of their time or their energy or their money, why would a reader invest long before it gets to a reader? I mean, it can go to a reader directly if they want to indie publish it. But if they want to be traditionally published, they got to go to an agent, and they have to ask an agent to invest their time and expertise in the book. And then they have to go to a publishing house and ask the editor to invest their time and expertise in it. And then they're asking the publishing house to take on a financial um, expense to bring the book to market. Why would any of those people in the chain and then the reader, if it's not important enough for the writer to invest any time in it or money, why would any of the other people? And I say money because, yeah, sometimes we have to buy things to support our writing. Maybe it's a course we have to take. Maybe it's software like Scrivener that I use, or, whatever else tools that you have that you need to use. Technically, yeah, all you need is really is a pencil and a piece of paper, but not many people are writing with a pencil and a piece of paper. Let's just be honest about that. If it's not worth it to the writer, why would it be worth it to the reader or anybody else in that chain? I don't get it. I just don't
Uh,
get it.
no, I don't either. And I like that point that you made. Like, why be a why call yourself a writer if you're actually not going to do the writing? Because you're not. That's not what you're doing, and it creates I think generative AI can create the illusion that people are writing. Um, if that's all they do, right? If they just generate text and stick it there and shift a few commas around and some full stops, then that's not writing. That's more editing if you want to even go that far. But I agree with you. Why, if you're not going to take the time to learn how to write or learn to write your voice or find your voice or, play with words or do those things, don't go and do something else. And I don't mean that in a trite way. I just, I, that comes from a place of deep respect for anyone who writes and physically goes through the pain of writing, whether they're published or not published. I don't think that whether you're published or published is not an indicator of you being a writer. I think if you're sitting down and you're constantly writing and learning the craft, that makes you a writer. And I don't understand why you'd outsource that. There's other things I would outsource. Like, having said that, like, a search engine is a type of AI. It's an artificial intelligence tool, right? So if you're doing comp titles, of course, you're going to do research. If you're finding agents and things like that, of course, you can go and do that. And because, you're a single person, if you're like me or any of us, we've got families, we've got jobs, we've got all these things, and there are tools that can help us save our time to do the things that are important. So yes, use tools to go and do research on agents or researches on how to publish your own book. Use those tools, but it, it, that's where they add, I think, value if you want to spend time developing your craft.
What do you think, Kathleen?
I was just thinking, I was sitting here trying to think whether or not I said this on a recent episode. I may or may not have, but there's an editor who I follow. She's in the UK. I think she's fantastic. Her name is Louise Harnby. And she recently, I saw an article by her uh, recently, and she said something like this: if you expect your work to be read by humans, make sure it's being edited by humans. And so that really resonated with me. Obviously, I'm an editor. Um, but I was just thinking, like, I get some requests in my editorial inbox, and people have said, yes, I've used generative AI. I don't work on those stories. I can't, I don't want to put my seal of approval on something that has been through or has been at least partially generated by AI. Cause then it's like I'm accepting it and I'm saying, like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, and I also wonder, sorry, there's a motorcycle. I also wonder if you have, if you've employed the use of AI to generate some of your text, you're spending quite a bit of money, because edits are not cheap by any means. You're spending quite a bit of money to have something edited that you didn't even put time and effort into. Like, I'm not sure I understand the mindset there, unless they're thinking, um, yikes, I don't know if this AI stuff is good. Maybe I should have an editor look at it and fix it for me or something. I don't I don't even touch I just don't work on those. But that's just it. Like, if you're writing something for humans and you want humans to read it, the editing should also be done by humans, because otherwise we're getting into the decision making by AI, right? And at the editing stage, that's where decisions need to be made about the text and what's good or bad and what's, is this really the way I want to say it, and is this voicey enough? And like, you can't trust AI to do all that for you. Um so yeah.
This brings me nicely to the next topic I wanted to discuss because, Kathleen, you just said there you don't want to put your seal of approval on something that was generated by AI. This brings me to the topic of the value of art. Now, ladies, this is something I think about a lot, like a lot, like probably too much. And I think that, yes, in the short term, like right now, AI is disrupting the publishing industry. There's no doubt about that. Like, and like I said, I think I forget the figure. I think it's 300,000 AI generated books each month being uploaded to Amazon. Like we're just inundated by it. I think in the long term, readers are not going to have it. They are just not going to have it. I think they are going to really appreciate the art of storytelling even more. And I think that they will respect the authors who are artists and they will look for the writers who are artists. I mean, okay, tomorrow I'm going to see The Odyssey. So let me just use The Odyssey as an example. Before it came out, there was a lot of naysayers. And the latest is that Elon Musk is going to use generative AI to create his own version of The Odyssey. Well, hey, go for it. Let's see which one the moviegoers prefer. Storytelling is big business, right? And because it's way more than book publishing. So, with respect to the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan, I mean, he is being widely praised for his insistence on practical effects instead of relying on CGI. Now, did he use CGI? Yes, a very minimal amount in post just to clean up a few little things. But all of like the Cyclops is a practical special effect. And he used the phrase is just totally escaping me right now. Forced perspective to create, like the giants versus Odysseus. And by the way, Matt Damon's stunt double in the Odyssey is a woman. I'm very proud of her. I have no idea who she is, but I'm very proud of her. So Christopher Nolan was leaning into the art of filmmaking. And you can call it old school if you want, but I think it's far more artistic because he had to employ puppet masters and practical special effects artists. These are artists. And everyone I know who has seen that movie, some are moviegoers, like really movie buffs. Some are actors, a couple of writers, some who just wanted to go and see what all the fuss was about. And they don't really watch a lot of movies and it's not really their thing, but they were curious. No matter what perspective they were taking when they walked into the theater, 100% of the people have absolutely raved about this movie. And it's made a lot of money, right? It is, in my opinion, a testament to not only Christopher Nolan's artistry, not only the artistry of the actors who are all big name stars, let's face it, but the artistry of the stunt people, of the costume designers, of the puppeteers who worked to create all those practical effects, to the camera operators who were out in those boats, to IMAX who had to use their ingenuity to create a, a, a something to go around their camera to douse the sound, to dampen the sound of the IMAX cameras, which are very loud. Christopher Nolan then had to come up with a mirror system so that the eye line of the actors was right. I mean, this is creativity and ingenuity and a group of artists working together to create something which, by all accounts, is a masterpiece. I'm really excited to see it. My hopes are super high. So I think that Christopher Nolan is showing story lovers what is possible. I mean, we want to say moviegoers, yes, but let's face it, it starts with the written word. Good old Homer. Now, are there literary equivalents? Yeah, there are really great novels. Pride and Prejudice. I dare anyone to come up with a romance that is better than Pride and Prejudice. I have never found one. I don't think there ever will be one. I think that is as close to the perfect novel as you're going to get. But there are others that have stood the test of time and that, in our world, mine and Melanie's, we kind of think of as masterworks because they are masterful. And I think readers, because which all three of us are. Like this, why we got into this business in the first place. Because nothing makes us happier than sitting down with a great book and getting lost in that story, right? I think those great novels will challenge us writers to level up even more. Like, Melanie, you're saying that AI creates the average. Yeah, well, that's not going to cut it. It is not going to cut it. The customer, which in our case are readers, they're not asking for AI generated stories. They don't want them. I don't think. They might sort of be curious as to what it's all about, but I don't think they're going to hang around. I really don't. I think readers want stories that explain what it means to be human. And AI can never do that because it is not human. It does not have a lived experience. It just can't do it. So I would love to know, Kathleen and Melanie, what you think about that. Kathleen, am I just seeing the world through rose colored glasses here? Am I being naive? Or might I have a point?
Personally, I do think there are people out there that appreciate real art. And just before I keep going there, I just want to touch on the 300,000 books, AI generated books a year, you said, right? That's ridiculous. And so it makes me wonder,
I
what the
think it's
heck
a
are these
month.
people doing it
I
for?
think it's a month.
A month.
I
Like,
think.
that is just, it's mind blowing. And so I'm thinking, well, is it because they want to cash in on something? They're going to get rich fast because they're in the wrong industry to do that, right? Um, and is it maybe a status thing because they see books and readers and writers as, they have a certain status? So is that what they're trying to do? You're risking that by doing it by cheating, really, doing it by AI and thinking that you can achieve the same status because you haven't put in the same blood, sweat, and tears, the effort, the, it takes a lot to learn how to write a book and to craft a story that works. And uh, it's unbelievable to me that there are that many books being uploaded that are generated by AI. It's mind blowing. But yes, I do think that there are people who do and will still appreciate the realness of art and the humanity that is in art, and the effort that comes behind it. And yeah, people that are publishing 10 books a year, I mean, that doesn't even matter anymore with the 300,000. But pushing out 10 books a year, like, that's just not, it's not humanly possible. So if a reader were to look at someone, you know, look at an author that has a website out there and they're like, yeah, I put out 10 books a year. I've got, I just started writing 2 years ago and I've already got 20 books published. That's kind of a red flag. Sorry, cars. So that's, to me, that's kind of telling, right? So you probably wouldn't want to go and read those books because there's just no way that they could possibly have been written by that person. Um, and this is going to get kind of into a tricky area too. Something else that is, it's also a discussion topic in the publishing landscape is being on social media. There's a lot of writers who don't like social media. They don't have time for social media. It's not their strength. And it's hard. It's getting harder these days to not be on social media because that is just where we're at. Um, so I think if you do have a strong presence on social media, it helps to establish that real human connection, right? Your connection is something that I'm big on in multiple areas, and readers want to know who the person is behind the words. And I think that if you have a presence on social media, that helps them get to know who you are. They're seeing a real human doing real human things, just like me. And so it kind of, I guess, closes that gap and lets them know that it is a real human behind those words. And they might, I don't know, maybe it'll come to this. Maybe authors should have like a disclaimer on their website saying, I don't use AI, or however they want to word it, or have a reel that's available on their socials. Maybe they pin it to the top and they just talk about AI and how they don't like it and how they don't use it. Um, and of course, people can lie. There is always that. But I'm always suggesting to people to trust your gut. So as a reader, look for signs. I think that we have to get more. Uh, we have to look for those signs, and we have to look for red flags. And I think we have to be more critical. I think we're at a point where true artists and masters of their craft, and those who are learning and honing their skills, the very presence, and the idea behind generative AI makes many of them work harder because they want to prove to themselves and to everybody else that, hey, I did this, and it's something that they're proud of. You can't be proud of something that you had AI generate for you. Like, it's how can you be, right? Um, and people are getting vocal about stuff. I think writers are getting vocal about it, readers are getting vocal about it, and I think that's important. So yeah, the tricky part that I mentioned, people don't necessarily want to be on social media, or they don't want to and it's not just social media, it's platform, right? You can have all kinds of things, a Substack newsletter, um, talks. I mean, this more comes into play with nonfiction for now. And so the tricky part is that right now, fiction authors aren't required to have a strong social media presence, um, because it's not like nonfiction. Nonfiction, you have to show that you're an expert in your field and you are the only person that can write this book. Um, with fiction, anyone can write anything. So you don't have to be an expert in whatever, right? Um, but having that social media presence, it is getting talked about more, and I have a feeling it is going to get to that point where publishers are going to say, and I've heard some of them already say, it would be great if the author had a stronger presence on social media, or have a platform of some sort. And I
Okay, let me
think,
jump in there.
this is just,
What does what's
yeah,
a stronger mean? What are they looking for? What is a stronger platform? Are they looking at numbers of
like,
followers? What are they looking for?
more importantly than numbers, like your follower numbers, is your engagement rate. So how regularly are you posting things? How often are you engaging with people, and how how many people are engaging with your whatever it is that you're putting out there, right? So the more regular you are, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever it is, consistency is key, because that's going to help, get you recognized by the algorithm and get more people seeing your stuff, and then you get more engagement, and it's just kind of an organic growth. And just one mention, please do not buy your followers. It is fake and it can be shown, and it just, I won't even get into that, but yeah, just having, if you're going to be on social media, try and be consistent. And tr- it can be another job. Really, it depends on how much work you want to put into it. But research what it is that your viewers are interacting with you, like what topics, right? Um, so yes, it does take time, but like I said, I do think that it's going to become a thing even for fiction writers. I think it's already becoming a thing. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because, again, you're connecting with your readers. You're giving them a place to show who you are, that you are human, and you do human things just like they do. But I think now, this is just me speculating at this point, but it might get to the point where it's almost a necessity in terms of, um, your stance on AI as an author. I think that social media is, the majority of us are on social media, and I think that is a good place to show what your thoughts are on it, and have that connection. So yeah, I do think that there's kind of two types of readers. There are readers who absolutely want nothing to do with AI generated text, and there are readers who don't really care. And they may not understand or appreciate the art of storytelling and what goes into it. They just want to read a book. Um, they might not necessarily get storytelling, what goes on behind the scenes, so they wouldn't appreciate that. Um, Perhaps those are the ones that won't care or realize that they're reading AI. And I think I said in an earlier recording too, we were talking about AI, and who knows where this is going to go. Maybe there is a market for AI generated books for people that want to read them. I don't think there's going to be that many, and I don't think it's going to be a massive industry like real publishing is. Um, but the point of all of that is, regardless of where it goes, be honest and transparent, right? Use it ethically. Um, don't try and trick readers into reading a book that you quote unquote published and it's generated by AI. Why trick people? Like what is the end game there? You know what I mean? Um, and it shouldn't be marketed or priced the same as books that we put our heart and soul into.
Yeah, sooner or later, the truth will out. And if you're lying about your use of AI, saying that you're not using it or using it very minimally, when eventually it's known that you're using it a lot and you had very little input in the book that you're claiming is yours, you're screwed. There's no there's
Yeah.
no other way to put that, right? Melanie, were you gonna say something?
You just double down on what Kathleen said. I think there will be a market for people who are curious to read about what AI can do in terms of fiction. There's clearly a market to a degree, unfortunately, for nonfiction. I think we're seeing the leading edge of what is happening in the nonfiction authors world. They seem to be the ones who are losing royalties first and fastest because you can now, their books are obviously ingested into the tools, and people are going now and using ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever to go and ask questions and get the answers from the AI tool because the data from the books has been entered into the algorithm. And I think there's been reports, right, that they are the nonfiction authors are seeing massive drops in sales. So I think that's the thin edge of the wedge that we're starting to see what this could look like when people are turning towards using those tools to get answers for things, solve problems for them, do whatever that is, do whatever they want, because the content's already in the tool, whether the authors gave permission or not. And there will be people who want to do that and go there, as well as read texts generated by artificial intelligence. I'm I'm like Kathleen. I hope that that market's not big, but you never know. It just might be. And if there's money to be if there's money to be made there, then businesses will go where there's money to be made, whether that's imprints or smaller parts of big publishing houses, I don't know. But if there is money to be made there, then business will follow to a degree. That that's a bit sad. I think that's unfortunate, particularly for nonfiction writers. Um, but I do think that there are people out there who do value art more than they value something generated really quickly. And you just have to go, you just have to look at what happens when there's a massive exhibition on of art that's never been together. And when I say art, I mean visual art, at art galleries. If for the first, I think at the moment down in Melbourne, there's an exhibition on about Cartier jewellery. So it's bringing together jewellery that's never been in the one place before, and that'll be a sellout. That'll be really hard to get tickets to. And while it's jewellery, there's an artistic element in the artifacts that are on display. And those things people want to go and see because they want to see the skill and the craftsmanship and I think you can apply that across all um, industries within the creative arts. There will still be people who want to read books created by human authors, and hopefully the majority of the readers will stay in that category. Although like Kathleen, I do think that there's a market for people who are curious about what a machine could do, and then how they could use a machine to do that themselves without actually learning the craft. And I take heart from, I spoke last episode about the fact that illumination artists or the monks who used to write the calligraphy texts before the Gutenberg press came out, they didn't, the numbers reduced, but the craftsmanship is still alive today. And there's actually, there are still illumination artists working today, even though it's in smaller numbers, but the craftsmanship is appreciated more, despite the fact that the printing press came in and took over the majority of the jobs there. So again, I think if we look to history to see what could happen, it gives us it doesn't tell us the answer, but it gives us an indication of what is going to happen. And I take heart from that to know that if you're good and you keep working at your craft, there is a place for you, because there are people who appreciate the craftsmanship element of creativity. So I do think there is that. I think, though, it will probably, some of that will retract with the onset of being able to generate books so quickly using generative AI.
Can I pop in and say something? Melanie, you touched on, you might have both actually touched on the fact that nonfiction is really getting hit hard by the use of AI. And so that's mind-blowing too, because publishers, like, they're very strict about, you have to prove that you are an expert in your field. Why are you writing this book? Why does the world need it right now? Um, and so they are writing from that area of expertise. And AI is only as smart as what gets fed into it. And things are changing all the time. So, what makes AI an expert in something? And so, I would challenge readers of nonfiction to look at the author behind the book before you go and buy the book, because you will you will see evidence that they are an expert in their field, right? You'll see that they've given talks. You'll see that they have a large platform. You'll see that maybe they've written other books on the same subject. They they're out there and they're talking about it. And so, if you are using AI to write a nonfiction book, like, that fiction is all made up, right? Based on maybe some true things that are happening, but it's fictionalized. Nonfiction is true, 100% true. And so, can you really trust that a nonfiction book that's been generated by AI is 100% true? Because you're reading nonfiction to get factual information, probably because you want to apply it somewhere in your life. Are you really going to trust AI to do that for you? So yeah, I would caution readers to be really careful about who the author is behind these nonfiction books, to make sure that they are who they say they are, and they are an expert, and that they're giving you correct and real and true information.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we will wrap it up. But I have a feeling we're going to revisit this topic at some point. To support the show, please leave us a rating and review and tell your writer friends about us. If you want us to review your query letter and first 10 pages writing sample, go to storynerd.ca for all the details about how to submit. To get your free first 10 pages checklist, visit valeriefrancis.ca/checklist. And for more information about Melanie's books, visit melaniehill.au. To find out more about Kathleen's agent wish list or what services she offers as an editor, visit KathleenFoxAgent.com and FoxEditorial.com, Fox with 2 X's, and check out her Substack at Literary Cats Keynotes. And remember, As we always say, story theory doesn't have to be difficult. It's a tool to help you, the human, write your human story. So take it one step at a time and have fun.